Welcome to Profit Talks, your weekly prediction markets roundup. I'm Profit, today's Sunday, June 7th, 2026, and as usual, today we'll go over the most interesting markets of the week. We'll try to understand what caused the price to move up or down, and generally put some context into the forecast we can see on the market. Today we'll start with Iran and the selection of markets I have for the situation. We'll try to understand how the events of the week impacted their forecast and put some context into what we can currently see on the markets. Then we will move over to Alberta, Canada, as there's been news that the referendum will take place for Alberta to leave Canada. So we will try to understand what traders think about it, what's the forecast on the referendum, and if it's a big thing or if it's just a nothing burger. Then we'll move over to 2028 US presidential election, as we had some interesting developments in the Democratic camp. And lastly, I'll speak a bit about LA Mayoral Election, as we have quite a tense race for the second place in the first round of the election. Let's take a look at the markets. Let's start with the most important question pretty much everyone must have at this point. So, when will the war end? We have a market on Polymarket on US x Iran permanent peace deal. And what we can see pretty much across the board, looking at just current forecast that we have, is that traders don't really expect to see a deal pretty much up until the end of September. Because as you can see on the market, there is 17% chance for a deal till the end of the month, only 32% chance of a deal by the end of July, 33% chance by the end of August, and only when we have the market for the end of October, the chances actually go above 50%. So looking at a very simple picture here, there's been quite an update to the forecast, as I think a week ago when I was doing this video, we had just around 50% chance of a deal by the end of August. When we look more closely at what happened during the week, you can see here on the chart that all throughout the week, chances for peace were actually flat. So for end of June, they were around 25%, end of July, around 40%, and then end of August, around 50%, just as I was saying. So what happened is that we didn't really hear a lot of news of progress. But on the other hand, we saw increased strikes. So we saw the US strike some infrastructure in the south of Iran, also some Iranian islands. And on the other side, we saw Iran target Kuwait airport. And generally, we saw an increase in hostilities between the two countries. So for the price of yes to be maintained or go up slightly, traders would need to hear some rumors of progress. So either there need to be a diplomatic meeting, or we will need to hear that the countries agreed on, for example, the nuclear issue or the Strait of Hormuz issue or the proxy issue. And all throughout the week, we didn't really hear a lot of bullish news. And since we heard on Friday that the hostilities between the two countries are escalating, it's quite logical that traders just drop their expectations of a deal moving forward. So as it currently stands on the market, chances for a deal are rather low, but that's all we can have. That's all the information we can have from this market. To actually get a bigger picture, we need to move and analyze some other markets on Iran. So next up, the market I like to have and to see on a daily basis is Iran closes its airspace. This is essentially a proxy market for a renewed round of hostilities, like full-fledged war, as we've seen in March and early April. And here, as you can see, the chances for a proper round of escalation are rather low. So when we look at the market here, there is only 19% chance that Iran closes its airspace by the end of June. There's also the market for end of July. There's only 32% chance we'll see that. And the chances, as you can see, were pretty flat across the week, even on Friday when we heard about all the escalations happening in the vicinity of the Persian Gulf. This market in combination with the previous one, gives us good insight into what traders are thinking, because the first market told us that they don't really see a lot of progress on having a deal, and they see that there are still small escalations between the two countries, so they dropped their forecast for chances of a deal. But at the same time, they didn't really increase their forecast on renewed round of hostilities, because these markets across all strikes are essentially flat. What this tells us is that even though there is no progress in negotiations, there is still little chance they will go back to fighting. So combining those two insights into one, we can clearly see that traders are just pricing in and prolonged stalemate. So this is the thing I've been talking about and writing about for weeks now. This is my base case for the near future, that these two countries simply need to wait it out and see who is right, because both countries are blockading each other. Like, to be precise, Iran is blockading everyone, and the US is blockading Iran. So ultimately, no one can go in or out of the Persian Gulf. And what traders are telling us is that basically this is the status quo for the next days and weeks, probably even months, looking at the longer term forecasts. So what this tells me is that we simply need to wait. We simply need to wait and see. And one side, sooner or later, will need to give some concessions on their own red lines to achieve some kind of a deal. Lastly, to analyze the situation in Iran, we should take a look at Strait of Hormuz traffic normalization. And this is also an interesting market, because we are generally interested in a peace deal, but what's the most important for pretty much everyone here is opening of the Strait of Hormuz, because only then the global trade goes back to, like, let's say normal, or will go and try to be normal in the next few months or years. But what traders tell us is that there is really little chance we'll see that by the end of the month, because now we are at 14%, which is down from almost 30% at the end of last week. When we look at July market, the story is quite similar. We can also see that on a weekly chart, we had almost 50% chance we will see traffic normalization by the end of July. And now we see there's only 32% chance we'll see that happening. There's also end of year market. We are here at 74% chance, but I don't think that the forecast that is that long actually tells a compelling story. So let's go back to July market and let's try to understand what's happening here. I would say that similarly to what we can see on the permanent peace deal market, traders also need to hear there is progress in negotiations to actually believe that we can have traffic normalization in the Strait of Hormuz. And since there is really no news about any progress in the negotiations, quite the contrary, we have news that Iran is supposedly dropping the negotiations, or that both sides are fighting each other again. Traders then just simply see that we are still pretty far away from the agreement, and even if we reach the agreement, there is also a problem of mines in the Strait of Hormuz. There is the problem of Iran wanting to have some control over who goes in and who goes out, and with all of these complexities and complications, traders sharply adjusted their forecast, as there's really no way to quickly achieve traffic normalization. Additionally, there is a World Cup starting in the US next week, and if we don't get any deal by then, we can also expect that the whole process will get a bit stalled, because Trump will be more focused on having America look good on TV than actually taking a deal. So we can expect the works to slow down a bit and hear more news only after the World Cup. And having that in mind, I think that's the two main reasons that the chances dropped on this market. And the overall summary of the Iran situation, I would say, is that we need to wait and see. We'll probably need to wait and see till mid-August, looking at the forecast that we have on the markets, and pretty much only then we will be able to see which side needs to make some concessions for the deal to move forward. Now let's move on to Alberta, Canada, and let's see if there's any chance we will have Alberta, for example, join the US. Ever since Trump joked that Canada should become the 51st state, there's been rumors that Alberta might try to get the referendum to leave Canada. So to give you some context, Alberta is the province of Canada that has probably the most oil and provides the most of Canadian GDP. So it would have been devastating for Canada if Alberta decided to leave, let's call it the Union, but it's not the Union, to leave the country and go on its own, possibly even join the United States. However, at the same time, the whole Canada situation and Trump joking about it becoming the 51st state, in my opinion, it's about the USMCA agreement being renegotiated this year. So USMCA is what replaced NAFTA, and NAFTA was a free trade agreement between US, Mexico, and Canada. Trump, even during his first term, said that NAFTA is probably the worst deal that has ever been signed. And the reason for it is that it gave Canada and Mexico, but mostly Canada, ability to import goods from Asia, import cheap goods from Asia, from China, and then resell them into the United States for profit without any tariff. Obviously, Trump doesn't like that. He wants to bring back manufacturing to America, etc., etc. So he's been putting pressure on Canada ever since he started his second term, just to have a good position ahead of the negotiations. So one of the strategies he uses is going and talking with Alberta separatists. There is an Alberta separatist movement, and trying to help them to organize the referendum to put some pressure on the Canadian government. Albertans succeeded in getting enough number of signatures to actually file for the referendum, and this week we've learned that the referendum will happen somewhere in October. As you can see here on the chart, traders were forecasting it will be a coin flip, so pretty much all throughout the life of the market, the prices oscillated around 50 cents. But ever since April, they increased even up to 80% at some point, to finally end up at 100. So obviously, I'm not the only one that had this theory in mind. I'm not the only one that thought this might happen. I will see Alberta trying to leave Canada. But there's still a long way between organizing a referendum and actually winning the referendum. So this is clearly visible in another market that we have, and this is, will Alberta vote for independence in 2026? And as you can see here, even though the referendum was confirmed, the chances for Alberta voting to leave are still minimal at 14%. So what this tells me and us is that there is really close to zero chance Alberta will leave Canada. The reason is pretty simple. The reason is that the Alberta separatist movement is not a big movement. It's not like, I don't know, Scotland or any other, or Catalonia in Spain, that have a strong national feeling and they really want to organize their own country. Quite the contrary, before Trump, we didn't really hear about Alberta trying to leave Canada, and we didn't hear about it for a very good reason, which is that they don't really want to do it. There's a small separatist movement, but other than that, most Albertans are happy to be in Canada, and they don't really want to change it and introduce all kinds of chaos into their livelihoods. So we won't spend that long on this market. I think it's clear here that this effort is just like a small part of the wider strategy to put pressure on the Canadian government. Everyone knows that there is very little chance that the referendum will actually succeed, but the mere fact that it will happen forces the Canadian government to actually campaign a bit in Alberta, to lose some time, lose some focus, and actually try and talk with Albertans about the whole situation. So I would say mission accomplished from Trump's perspective. There is a referendum. He'll try to pump it at some point for sure, and this will act just as another part of leverage that the US has over Canada. We'll probably hear more about it and the whole situation once the USMCA is in the active process of renegotiation. For now, we need to wait and see, but I think the market is clear here. We shouldn't really expect any shockers. Now, let's move on to 2028 US presidential election. So it's still very far away from where we are now. It's early 2026. It's only been just over a year of Trump, but everyone's already thinking in politics about the 2028 race. And while on the Republican side we have probably Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance as the top contenders, considering how they integrate with the current administration and what's the expectation from Trump, then on the Democratic side, the race is pretty much open. So, as you can see here, I have a market on who will announce a presidential run before 2027. And at the top sits Kamala Harris, as she's widely expected to join the race in 2028. We'll see if that's successful. I doubt it, considering her results in 2024. But she's trying, so we'll see. People give her 21% chance she'll actually announce a run this year. But what's really interesting is Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. As you can see here on the weekly chart, there's been a huge spike in her chances of announcing a run. Now the price is stable at 17 cents, but before this spike it was stable at 13 cents. So what happened and why did we have such a huge spike? The answer is the polling, and the Democratic polling showed that Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, has now the best chance out of the whole Democratic Party to actually secure a run and challenge the Republicans in 2028. So I assume you know her. If you don't, she is one of the most recognizable members of Congress currently. She's Democratic, she's young, as she's only 36 now, so barely a year past her age, not deadline, but past the age that she can actually participate in the election as a contender. So it will be definitely interesting. This will be one of the younger candidates if she announced a run, but also probably one of the candidates that can really capture the young population, the Gen Z, especially on the liberal side, as she's quite liberal even when it comes to the Democratic Party. But while the poll made a lot of waves in the media and obviously on prediction markets, as we can see in this spike here recently, what's really interesting is when we look at the market for the actual Democratic nominee. Here it's pretty clear that this poll didn't really have a lot of impact when it comes to what traders think or who traders think will be the Democratic candidate in 2028. This is quite a liquid market because, as you can see here, you can earn some interest holding positions in it, and as you can see, there's been a lot of trading already. Gavin Newsom has almost 26 million volume. AOC has over 13 million in volume. So it's quite a liquid market that would surely react to big news like that. But then when we look at the chart, we can clearly see that AOC's chances barely moved on the news. Gavin Newsom is still expected to be the next presidential nominee at 25%. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is now at 9.3%. And Kamala Harris, the favorite to announce a presidential run this year, sits only at 7.8% chance. So there's still a long way out, but we can clearly like not clearly, but we can start to see the race shape up. So it looks like we'll have Gavin Newsom, AOC, Kamala Harris, John Ossoff, Josh Shapiro, and maybe some others, depending on how the next year or so goes, that will try to be the next nominee. If you ask me, after 2024, I think the Democrats need some fresh start, because like we had Obama back in 2012. Then there was supposed to be Hillary Clinton in 2016. She lost badly to Trump. Then in 2020 we got Obama adjacent nominee, which is Biden. He won with Trump, and then they tried with Biden. It didn't really work out, so they went with his VP, so Kamala Harris, and she also lost pretty badly to Trump, who was widely considered to be an underdog even the day before the election. So if you ask me, I think that the Democrats need some new blood, someone who is not really connected to the whole Obama era top Democrats. Well, it's probably not Gavin Newsom because he's on the older side. He also has not such a great result when it comes to running California. But AOC is a wild horse, if you ask me. She can have some really great results in the primaries, and depending on how everything goes, I think she's a rather good pick considering the current social and political climate that we have in the US. Obviously, we'll see if she even decides to run, as she's very young. She can probably wait for more years, sit comfortably in Congress, and just get some wins in Congress before she announces a run. But anyway, I think that presidential primaries on both sides will be really interesting, because on the Democratic side we have quite a wide field, all the way between Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris. While on the Republican side we have Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, and obviously Trump, who will be somewhat of a kingmaker, endorsing his candidate, as he won't be able to run in 2028. He will also probably be way too old to actually run, but that's another topic. I would say we'll have very interesting primaries on both sides, and yeah, I'm looking forward to watching them as well. For now, these are the markets. The last topic today, LA Mayoral Election. So now we have a market for who will advance to the second round, and here, as you can see, it was pretty clear early on that the market expects Karen Bass and Spencer Pratt to advance to the second round. And to give you some context, Karen Bass is a politician, while Spencer Pratt is a reality TV star that decided to run for LA mayor. And considering his popularity and generally considering everything that's been going on throughout the campaign, people didn't give him a lot of chances to win the election, but it was widely considered he will be in the second round. However, as LA started to count the votes that came in, as you probably know, California has a very long time before they count every vote for some reason, so there's still nothing sure yet. But pretty soon after the vote counting started, it turned out that Spencer Pratt is not so safe in the second place. Actually, there's Raman. She was considered to be like a third spot just before the election. Not a lot of people gave her chances to actually advance to the second round, but here we are. As you can see, there's been first a drop and then a cross in chances, and now we have virtually no chance that Spencer Pratt will advance to the second round of LA mayoral election. Most of the sharp traders are extremely happy with that result, because they've been buying no on Spencer Pratt for weeks now, as they consider him not exactly a serious candidate that can challenge Karen Bass. But what I saw is that they really expected to hold this no position up until the second round, because they expected Pratt to to advance to the second round. So it's a good payday for them. It's probably they are happy that they don't have to hold Pratt any longer. And that's the story. When we look at the overall LA mayoral election market, we can pretty much see that since the very beginning, Spencer Pratt was considered a favorite over Nithya Raman. I hope I pronounced it correctly. But as you can see here as well, when the vote counting started, Raman started to rise rapidly, while Spencer Pratt started to dive, and there is probably no chance this will change in the future. So we will have a second round in LA between Karen Bass and Nithya Raman, and as you can see, traders don't really like it that much, because when it was Karen Bass and Spencer Pratt, as we can see for example here, Karen Bass was a strong favorite to win the election, and now as Spencer Pratt didn't advance to the second round and we have Nithya Raman, we can see that the chances are a lot closer. So we have Karen Bass at 61% and Nithya Raman at almost 40%, signifying that the election will be a lot closer now. So if anyone was buying Karen Bass yes instead of Spencer Pratt no, they are probably now a bit furious. But this is a good exercise in understanding how the second place result can actually impact the chances of victory for the actual winner of the first round. So when the expectation was that Spencer Pratt will advance to the second round, Karen Bass was a strong favorite. Now she's not such a strong favorite, because Nithya Raman, even though she barely advanced to the second round, she's considered to be a stronger challenger to Karen Bass versus Spencer Pratt, who was not really considered to be a serious candidate. So this is an interesting case study. As you can see, different events impact the prices on prediction markets, and sometimes a not so obvious change can really impact the positions that you have, or the other markets that you actually hold. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed the content, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and help the videos spread and help the prediction market analysis enter the mainstream. Thank you for watching, and see you next week for another round of Profit Talks.